Alright my friends, welcome back to Frogboy X1 Gaming. I'm Andrew and today we're doing a little more of the 7900 XT versus the 4080 Super. So I made that video the other day talking about you know, how my feelings have changed over the 7900 XT since buying the 4080 Super. And after a week, it's literally been a week today since I had bought that 4080 Super. The 4080 Super is obviously still in the PC right now, seeing as I've got the 7900 XT right here in my hand, because this thing is an absolute beast. So let me give you guys a little bit more of the backstory for what happened. Is I'm pretty new to PC. I've only been doing this for a couple of years now. The only reason I even got into PC was for the channel, so that I could make content. Kind of felt like it was easier to do all the YouTube stuff that I needed to do on a PC. So I never really got the PC with the intention of being a gamer. But here I am, you know, a couple of years later. I started with Xbox Series X and PS5 and was covering that kind of stuff, you know, like building the community and stuff around that. And right when I got this 7900 XT, I had a 3080 10 gig before that, and then I ended up, you know, getting the 7900 XT as a thing. Was like I was getting pretty mad. I was getting pretty mad that I was running out of VRAM. I was still trying to, you know, coax the 3080 along into where I was getting, but we were starting to get the new games. They were coming out. The 3080 just wasn't holding up to my unrealistic expectations for that card, which is crazy, because now in hindsight, now when I look back and I'm like, yeah, you know what, the 3080 10 gig was probably still a good card. But I'm grateful that opportunity, you know, led me to picking up this 7900 XT. Now this is the XFX model. I mean, this is the first AMD card that I ever bought, was the XFX 7900 XT. I did ended up buying a 7600 XT and a 7800 XT, and I did a whole bunch of testing on those. I was actually really happy with the 7800 XT. I mean, I like to keep that one. I liked keeping that one in the overall system the most, because that one just felt like really optimized. It felt really good. And then I ended up picking up a 4070 Super. And I was still kind of bitter with the whole Nvidia thing for a long time, you know, and now it's a lot different. Now I'm a lot more calm and a lot more like thinking about things long term, and thinking about like, okay, there's some things that Nvidia does really well, and there's some things that I absolutely just love AMD for. Like the user experience on AMD absolutely to this day is my favorite. I love the AMD experience significantly more than I do the Nvidia side. Now guys, I want to talk about this. Now that you guys kind of have a little bit of backstory, you guys kind of understand, you know, that like, look, I'm not your typical, you know, PC elitist. I don't really, you know, I don't know as much as a lot of the other people do, and I don't tie myself to the old thinking of the way the old people do things. I like to play video games still, so turning this channel into a benchmark channel, it just isn't something that I'm 100% interested in doing. Now I do have an Nvidia card, and I do have an AMD card, because like I just said, there's things that I like on the Nvidia side, there's things that I like on the AMD side, and I find myself in a unique situation to where I can have and maintain both and be able to, you know, swap them out when I want to play something on the AMD side. Usually I've been doing like 30 days with one in and then 30 days with the next one in, because then that just kind of helps me, you know, really focus on that experience for 30 days, and then throw in the other card and experience that for like 30 days, and then just kind of bounce back and forth, maybe give or take, you know, leave one in a little bit longer than the other one. So leading up to the 4080 Super purchase, because I'd planned this a little while ago, I'd actually planned this about a month and a half ago, that I was going to pick up a 4080 Super, and I wanted to sit there and play for a month with the 7900 XT as my exclusive GPU. Right after I was finished, you know, doing all the testing for the 4070 Super. Now the 4070 Super is a very good card, and to be completely honest with you, my friends, I recommend a 7800 XT, a 7900 GRE, or the 4070 Super as your good solid mid-range GPUs that are definitely going to provide a really good experience for you. Now with the 4070 Super with the 12 gigs of VRAM, as long as you're keeping in your like 1440p zone with that card for the majority of your games, like your heavier AAA games that, you know, like our Unreal Engine 5 or some of the other things, you're going to do very well at 1440p with that card. Once you start going into like higher resolutions like 1440p, probably even widescreen type stuff, that's when I feel like you're probably going to run into some of those issues. But those cards are awesome. Any three of those, definitely worth picking up. If you're waiting for like the 50 series cards or whatever, I definitely think that those cards are sufficient enough to where you probably could get them at a decent enough price. I think if the 50 series does launch and they come out with the GDDR7 on there, they're definitely going to be more money, and then you're just going to kind of, you know, you're just waiting and suffering. And I think a lot of people, I hear that all the time. Man, you should have just waited till the next one. Dude, if I sat there and waited for the next one, I'd be waiting perpetually. I'd be perpetually waiting forever, because there's always something new and better on the horizon. Whereas, you know, you can get in there now and experience that, and then when something new does come out, you can always sell your old GPUs or your old hardware and you know, get a good discount on the new ones. So that's a good thing about the PC space, is there's always somebody out there that would take your old stuff and give you a decent amount of money for it, so that you can put it towards your new purchase and you can keep that evolution of your hardware going. There's really not a whole lot of a loss, you know, in the PC space. You get to utilize that equipment as long as you want, and then usually it still holds a pretty decent amount of value as long as you're realistic about it. I mean, if you pay $800 for a GPU and you use it for 2 years and you try to get like $700 for it, yeah, that's stupid. But if you go and you get $400 for it, you just put it up there, and you know, you set your lowest price that you'd take is $300 for that maybe. Then that's $300 towards your next GPU. So I would, you know, that's kind of my way of thinking about it. You know, you get all that use out of it, and then somebody's willing to take that from you used. So yeah, cut them a good deal. Cut them a good deal. You enjoyed the crap out of it. Here's the thing, guys. So the 7900 XT versus the 4080 Super. Now, like I said, my friends, I kind of, I'm not going to lie, I did go into the 4080 Super with a little bit, I think my expectations were a little bit unrealistic, not super unrealistic, but a little bit unrealistic, because I was thinking in my head like, okay, yeah, I'm going to be running this, you know, as as an equivalent to my 7900 XT. And here's the problem with that: the 7900 XT actually comes with 20 gigabytes of VRAM, and it also has a 328-bit bus or whatever. So when you look at that and then you compare and contrast that to the 4080 Super, which has the 16 gigs of VRAM and running on a 256-bit bus. Now I know that doesn't matter as much. Trust me, I've tested. You know, I've played like with a 7600 XT at 128-bit bus, and that doesn't matter as much for a lot of stuff, for a majority of the things out there. But the way that I've really been testing that amongst, you know, these two cards is I will routinely run this card at 6K, 8K, 5K, you know, pushing above the 4K, because there's a feature on AMD which is called Virtual Super Resolution, which lets you select all the different resolutions in between, and you can downsample or super sample down to like a 1440p monitor or a 4K TV or something like that. So I do utilize that technology a lot, because 60 FPS is my like baseline for where I'm comfortable playing games, where I kind of want to play games. I mean, definitely I love higher frames than that, but 60 FPS, if I can get that and min-max my overall visual quality, I'm definitely more about getting the visual quality than I am about getting the super high frame rate. So what I'll do is I'll take this card and I'll run my games at like 5K or 6K or 8K, and then I'll super sample them down or downsample them to my 1440p monitor, which gives me a significantly better image quality than native 4K or just running that on a 4K screen, my pixels look significantly more dense, and the image quality just looks fuller. It looks better, and you can do this with the Nvidia GPU too. And this is where we're going to get into like the thing where I find this card to be the better option for that, is with the 4070 or the 4080 Super K. Now I do have that ability too. I can push it to 5K, 8K, whatever. I can do that with that card too. But this is where I feel like I'm starting to run into that issue with the memories, with the bus rate and the little bit lower overall VRAM. Now I haven't maxed it out, but with Horizon Forbidden West, I was pushing 14 gigs of VRAM on that at 5K. And this is 5K, and that's utilizing, and what if you push the resolution higher, you are going to utilize FSR, you are going to utilize DLSS, you are going to utilize frame gen and all of that other stuff. You're going to utilize these technologies to push, sometimes you're going to really need to push it to get your frame rate. Sometimes you might not have to, just depending on how heavy the game is or whatever. But this is where we start to run into the to the limitations of what the 4080 Super can do, and that is, starting. I mean, you can just kind of tell. Like I was feeling like I was getting about the same frame rate, between Horizon Forbidden West on the 7900 XT and the 4080 Super, like when I first loaded in. But as I get further into the experience on the Nvidia GPU, the frame rate starts to slowly go down, and I wound up right around like a 30 something frames a second or whatever, and it's. But I think that might also be because I was like playing around with the different levels of DLSS, but after I put it on like a little bit lower form of DLSS, because I wanted to see if I could still get good image quality with like lower settings of DLSS, I ended up, it ended up lowering my overall frame rate a lot more than what I was initially getting when I first loaded into the game at the 5K settings with Ultra and DLSS at the quality setting. Now, when you do utilize virtual super resolution or DSR, which is dynamic super resolution for on the Nvidia side or something, you essentially once you use like FSR or you use DLSS, it doesn't matter if you go lower into like ultra performance or anything like that, because what's going on is it's still because it's down sampling to like the 1440p monitor or the 4K monitor, so you're still getting a tighter, cleaner looking image quality. So it doesn't necessarily matter which level you're using, but you will want to play around with it. Obviously, going to ultra performance is going to give you significantly more frame rate during that. But then once you get on there and you start playing that and you start looking at the image quality, at least for me anyways, on a 1440p monitor downsampled from 6K down to 1440p at 60 frames a second, it looks absolutely incredible. Absolutely beautiful, and it does it on both. But I do run into the the occasional it doesn't feel as stable on the 4080 Super while doing that. So I think that I might not be able to do that on as many games, whereas just regularly running the 4080 Super, it usually is anywhere from, I mean, it's fairly close to a 7900 XT in rasterization power. They are pretty close, to be completely honest with you. If you had just a 7900 XT and you were playing on that, you would be completely happy. And I don't even think by the naked eye, unless you have a frame rate counter on there, you're not going to be able to tell the performance difference between these two cards. So that's like one thing that I wish more reviewers would talk about, because yeah, we can all see the frame rates, and I don't know, guys, I kind of do think that maybe it really just has to do with how people react to content when it's positive for AMD, because you do get a lot of pushback when you come out with some positive content for that, especially if you're like, yeah man, it's not that much different, like it's pretty dang good. I mean, I will give Nvidia its props for having, you know, better ray tracing performance, because there are some games that I absolutely love playing on the Nvidia GPU when it comes to the ray tracing performance of that. I do think that Nvidia does a very, very good job at that, and a lot of those games, they are built with the Nvidia ray tracing in mind, so they do usually run better on the Nvidia platform. That is one thing that I would, you know, that I would like to see AMD really take an interest in with these next generation GPUs that they bring out. I would like to see them really focus more on like some AI upscaling, as well as, you know, a better implementation for ray tracing. I think that they've got everything else pretty much in the bag. Like, I feel like their performance is close enough to Nvidia to where, you know, if ray tracing wasn't in the picture, to be completely honest with you, the Adrenalin software, in my opinion, gives AMD the edge over the Nvidia experience by like a wide margin for me. So I know that like if other people had the opportunity to utilize an AMD GPU, I do kind of feel like a lot of people would come to that same conclusion. Especially because the thing is once you pick up the AMD GPU and you put it in your system and you get things set up and you start playing your games and you see how your games react and just how stable the overall driver set is for the AMD experience, once you get in there and truly utilize that, I think that, you know, the love and affection that you have for like the Nvidia platform, it doesn't taint the experience, but it 100% shows you that, hey man, Nvidia could be significantly better. And then when you think about the price of the Nvidia GPUs versus what you're getting out of the AMD side of things for like the price, it's like you got the price and then you've got the Nvidia performance just under this price, and you know the price of this is this high or even a little bit higher, and they're kind of close. It's kind of weird when you think about it. When you're in the AMD card and you're playing and you're enjoying your games and you're just having fun and you're looking at that overall experience, you're just like, gosh dang man, this. And then it starts to play mind tricks with you. You start to wonder like, dang dude, why do I keep paying all this money for Nvidia? I mean, I'm buying like their 4070 Super and I'm playing it, and yeah, I'm getting to experience ray tracing, but the performance of the game is significantly better without it. So I end up playing the game without it. When you look at the AMD price, you're getting a cheaper price, and you're getting, you know, in most instances or in some cases, you're getting just as much frame rate or even higher frame rate. And you're like, wow, this is cool. And not only that, you're getting a more healthy side of VRAM with the AMD cards. So you have to look at these things that nobody talks about. Like, I get that DLSS is very nice, and it really does, you know, make your games look better, perform better, all of that stuff. Like, there's no taking that away from DLSS. But when you're using like quality AMD FSR, man, unless you're sitting there really looking at it and like really like, oh yeah, and seeing them side by side, I don't think it's gonna bug you enough to where you're gonna really miss the DLSS all that much. And then when you look at things like, you know, like ray tracing performance, like I just said, with the ray tracing performance being almost good enough to use in some cases and barely usable in other cases, you start to think like, why do I even have this? If I can't use it, why is it even there? And then when you look at the AMD side of things, you know, there's the games out there that are actually fairly well optimized for ray tracing for the AMD side as well as the Nvidia side, and they do run very well side by side, and you can actually play those games. It's just a few games on the Nvidia side that actually run significantly better with ray tracing, whereas even on the AMD side, you still get a playable experience while utilizing that ray tracing. So, and then, you know, when it comes to like frame generation technologies, obviously, you know, Nvidia and AMD both have solutions. AMD has both AMD's Fluid Motion Frames, which is driver level support for all DX11 and DX12 games. and that works fairly well. It actually is pretty decent, depending the higher the frame rate you the higher the base frame rate you get when you go into that game, the better the experience is going to be all around. But then you also have FSR3's native frame generation that's developer integrated into those games, and that actually works fairly well as well. Don't really have any problems with that, but I will say that both Adrenaline software and Nvidia's Shadowplay, they do interfere with the overall experience when utilizing those technologies. They both become unstable if you try to record the footage from that. I would say, in my opinion, I feel like it's a little bit more unstable with the Nvidia side of things. I usually end up having to turn off frame generation because it just makes the screen kind of bounce all over the place, and it just seems kind of weird. So I really don't try to utilize it all that often when I'm utilizing the when I'm playing around with the Nvidia card, which kind of makes it a little bit hard to record the videos. But most of the, I exclusively use that to record video footage for both systems, and I just feel like the overall AMD experience for using Shadowplay and using the Adrenaline software is significantly better. You can get in there and tune your GPU, you can get in there and tune your CPU, so you can do the undervolting, overclocking, setting your memory timings higher and all of that stuff right there from the Adrenaline software, and then you can apply it and just get out and jump right back into your games. So that's there's a lot of benefits to actually using AMD. I do like it more as a creator. I like the simplicity of the Adrenaline software and the Shadowplay. I freaking love that. But then on the 4080 side of things, my friends, this 4080 Super is very impressive. Like, I do like it. I feel a lot better about the 4080 Super than I do the 3080 10 gig. This is a better experience. This feels a lot more stable. I'm getting, pretty dang good frame rate across the board. I am still paired with a 5900X, so yes, there's obviously performance that I'm leaving on the table with both my 7900 XT and the 4080 Super. That update is coming. That upgrade is coming. It's just I'm waiting for the next CPUs, and then I'm trying to decide exactly what board and everything I want to go with, because I was thinking about getting this MSI board that's actually, like $500 or whatever. And I don't know. I'm trying to be a little bit smarter about this stuff. Like, obviously I can get it, but at what cost, man? At what point does it become, more of a, I'm just buying stuff to buy stuff versus buying stuff just to get better performance? So this is an interesting conundrum that I find myself in pretty often when it comes to the PC space. I feel like a lot more people are interested in watching the GPU content than they are actually watching like CPUs and this and that and all of that other stuff, because it's just more straightforward. But I am interested in upgrading to a AM5 platform. I'm just kind of waiting until Computex to see what AMD has to offer with their new CPUs before I actually pull the trigger and put myself, see, that there for me is more important for waiting for the next platform than it is waiting for like a new GPU. Like, I don't really care, dude. I'd buy a GPU at the end of the generation. It doesn't matter, because you're still getting that, and by the end of the next generation you'll be able to get the 5080 Ti or the 5080 Super or whatever. So in my opinion, I don't really care much about waiting for GPUs, especially because to me it just doesn't really matter that much. Like, I'm happy with my performance now with the games that I'm getting and playing. I've been happy with my 7900 XT since day one. Since the day I got this GPU, I have been nothing but satisfied and content with the overall experience. I was even content and satisfied with the 7800 XT, and I was like, gosh dang, there was a time throughout that 7800 XT that I was just like, I don't know about this, guys. Maybe I just freaking leave the 7800 XT in there because it's actually pretty performant. But yeah, guys, I fully support and believe in AMD. I do, and I feel the same way about Nvidia. Don't get me wrong, I feel the same way about Nvidia, but I do love the. My biggest thing, guys, is honestly it's the user experience. I think that to me is probably more important, because any GPU I get from like the 4070 on up, I've been satisfied with performance and visual quality and all of that. Like, I've been satisfied. It is significantly better than an Xbox Series X or a PS5. It definitely gives me a better experience than either one of those consoles, even on the low-end, mid-range cards. So when I look at that, like, pretty much any of them will make me happy. So what matters more is the user experience, and I find myself 100% satisfied with what AMD has to offer with the Adrenalin software. Now, Nvidia is working on it. They do have an app right now, and they are bringing that more mainstream and trying to get in on that whole user experience, which is like, I'm very excited about that. Like, I was pretty much ready to just be like, I'm done with Nvidia, but then they announced that, so I immediately bought that 4070 Super. And I started going to work on it, and I'm happy with that. It's definitely helped change my mind and make me not so negative towards Nvidia. But yeah, guys, as far as I'm concerned right now, the 7900 XT is still my favorite card. I'm really enjoying the experience that I've got with the 4080 Super so far. It's not been a negative at all. When I put out my videos and then I have the people coming to me and telling me I'm benchmarked and all of this stuff, like, dude, my experience is good. Like, I don't care. I will eventually upgrade to AM5 and that'll be that. So but as it sits right now, I am satisfied with a 4080 Super. I am satisfied with my 7900 XT. I do like the AMD experience more than the Nvidia experience, but to each their own. Whatever you like is whatever you like. And it's gonna be pretty hard for Nvidia to completely wipe the AMD from my mind. I've tried AMD and I freaking love it. I think it's awesome, and I think a lot of people could benefit from the savings that they would get by buying an AMD GPU if they can't get. If you walk into Micro Center or Best Buy or wherever else to buy an Nvidia card and it is too expensive for you, just know that you can get a dang good AMD experience for about $100 cheaper. For about $100 cheaper. And in every case that I've experienced this whole generation of going, I've bought a 7600 XT, 7800 XT, a 4070, a 4070 Super, a 4080 Super, and a 7900 XT. Those are all the GPUs that I've tested, that I've bought, that I've played around with, and I've gotten rid of since the beginning of this generation. And I'll tell you what, in every single segment that I've bought in, I have been very impressed with the AMD experience. It has been very smooth across the board. I haven't had no driver issues. I haven't had any problems that everybody seems to be regurgitating from 10 years ago or whenever there was the last AMD driver issues or whatever. I think AMD drivers are actually pretty good. Now, there's always going to be like some stupid little things in there on both platforms that obviously they're going to fix them eventually, but I try not to just sit and be super negative about that kind of stuff. Like, there's things that obviously if you like something you're going to overlook, and I've been trying to put those things in categories. And if it's something that if I love on the AMD side, like, I will completely ignore it on the Nvidia side and vice versa. So it's one of those things where I feel like that's the only way that I can be like really fair when it comes to the GPUs and try to give you guys the best information that I can. But I mean, I know that there's certain use cases for people that have been on PC for a very long time, and I'm not trying to negate those things for you at all. I'm just trying to tell you that from the perspective of somebody that's new to the PC gaming space, there are features on AMD that I absolutely cannot live without, and there are instances on the Nvidia side where I actually do want to see just how far this ray tracing and stuff can really be pushed, and that was probably the biggest reason for buying a 4080 Super, so that I could really see if the ray tracing experience is even better than what I was getting on the 4070 Super, because the 4070 Super was doable, but it wasn't something that I'd be like, yeah, man, I'm just 100% guns ablaze and using ray tracing through everything on this card. That's just not how the 4070 Super is designed, but it is enough to at least let you see what it looks like. But other than that, my friends, when it comes to AMD 7900 XT, my feelings have not changed towards this card. I'm still 100% like, yeah, this thing is freaking completely awesome. So when you think about the 7900 XT that you potentially bought because I said it was awesome, feel good knowing that, like, yeah guys, I still love that card. I still think it freaking rocks compared to a 4080 Super. Now the 4080 Super is, you know, slightly better, but I just don't think you'd be able to tell, because I'm having a really hard time telling myself that it's a lot better. The only thing that I really do notice it better is the ray tracing performance. That's really it. When it comes to DLSS or FSR, I use them both in the quality mode, my friends, so the differences aren't so significant that, like, when I'm in a game playing, I don't notice. Unless I'm literally stopped and looking around, I might see like a little bit more instability on the AMD side, but then when I also look at certain games on the Nvidia side, like I was playing Assassin's Creed Mirage the other day, and I've got like stuff that's just not holding up with DLSS, and vice versa with Cyberpunk 2077. There are transparency issues with some of the stuff that it just looks kind of weird. So yeah, man, DLSS is not exactly perfect, but it does get the job done, and I feel the same way about FSR. FSR is fine. If you need an upscaler to make your image quality look good on a 4K TV, I don't have a problem with it at all. I think it looks just fine on a 4K screen. I think it looks good if you're running 4K and you're downsampling to 1440p. You can't even tell. Once you get to that kind of a situation, you really can't even tell. So, all right, my friends, if you guys like this content, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you so much for watching.